there are so many conflict points you come up against where you have an option. Are you going to grow through it, or are you going to let it break you?
What advice would you go back and give your 20-year-old self right now, knowing what you know now?
Is that you never have to trade on your authenticity to do what is right for your business or for your community. Those aren't not the same. Once I brought that back in, all of a sudden, our business started doing better. All of a sudden, there were no issues with our team. All of a sudden, my personal life looked quite different. I have strong convictions, but they're loosely held. I could absolutely wake up tomorrow and be completely over it and completely walk away, and I would have no issue with that. I'm turning 30 in November. The only problem is that I don't know how to sing, but that's solvable.
Solvable,
right?
Yeah.
So signed up for singing lessons.
According to Sam, it's solvable. Duh. This is The Way You Lead, a show for the new era of leaders who are ready to rise. I'm Joshua Church, and every week we explore how to lead from the inside out with strength, heart, and authenticity. Through stories, strategies, and conversations with embodied leaders, you'll gain what you need to lead yourself and others in today's changing world. The way you lead matters, and now is the time to step up. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
It feels almost criminal. This is the first time you're coming on the podcast.
It does feel criminal.
Right? That's on me. Like, I'll take responsibility for that one. That's on me. Like, this should have happened a long time ago.
Better late than never.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the first of many. Because I know for a fact that we're just going to scratch the surface with this one.
It's an invitation into all of our ice cream chats.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Sam, you and I have awesome ice cream chats. I wish some of them, we should record one of them. Maybe next time we'll get ice cream and we can take the little DJI to-go mics and we'll set up the camera and we'll just record a podcast eating Salt and Straw ice cream.
Us on location, one Paseo by the fire pit.
That's right, by the fire pit, one Paseo. Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah, you bought me ice cream the day that we found out that Edge was not going to make it and we were going to shut down. Do you remember that?
I do. I said, please let me buy you this ice cream. And then I hugged you.
Yeah. And I accepted. I received it wholeheartly.
But you don't let me buy anymore.
Yeah. It's just, I like to treat people to ice cream. Sue me. I like to treat, and usually we get the discount because... Shout out to my guy over there, Francisco. He hooks it up.
And isn't he getting us the special flavor?
We got to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lucky Charms. Oh, bless Salt and Straw. So good. I love it. I love it.
Guilty pleasure.
Not even guilty, just pleasure. Sam, so welcome to the show. So I've been excited to drop in with you for a bit. I feel like you are someone who certainly leads their life in a very particular way, in a way that I've always admired and been inspired from, but by far. So I'm excited to bring you on and to jam with you and ask you some questions and understand a little bit more of the inner workings of your mind and your journey, because you've had quite the entrepreneurial journey. It's still unfolding. But yeah, maybe you can just start by sharing a little bit about what you're working on currently with Vizer and otherwise, but maybe you kind of bring us up to speed with what you're currently working on.
Yeah. Entrepreneurially, Vizer is definitely first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
It was a company I started in college.
Right.
Had the idea when I was a junior, and I didn't know that I was going to do it full time, but circumstances aligned that way, and I launched it right out of school. Mm-hmm. So no experience working anywhere else. It launched as a consumer app because I hated working out. That was all about how can we motivate people to work out with impact and rewards, and I absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. We ran the app for 5 years. Okay. Live in the market, and over time realized that was a very challenging business to scale, as I know you can relate to, trying to figure out how do we make the economics work. And
why was that challenging in particular? Like, what about that model or about that business was challenging?
In particular, the way the app was structured was it was completely free for people that were using it. That was the whole point.
Right.
Your exercise is your currency, and you get these rewards by working out. And then it was funded by different partners, corporate partners that were buying into the ecosystem in different ways. For the economics to work, though, the consumers or the people using the app had to be both donating and redeeming. And the majority of our users, 90%, were motivated by donating.
Oh, really?
Which is beautiful. That was the whole point, that pro-social motivation. But to fund all of that, we would have needed way more engagement on the reward side. So I would like to bring it back one day. But the sustainability just became challenging because the more you scaled the user base, the more the economics started to break down.
Right. Was acquisition challenging, or were you able to build a pretty good user base?
No, we were able to acquire users. We didn't pay for marketing.
Wow.
The community would share the platform a lot on social media, and that certainly helped. Right. And we had a good ambassador community and influencer community. So acquisition wasn't the problem. It was, as this continues to grow, how do we make this work? Yeah. And it just started to break down.
Got it. So you had you and Dylan, your cousin and co-founder, right?
Yeah.
Co-founder and co-partner in this all. You guys had the ability and the foresight to see, okay, this is not working. Let's pivot. Take me through that process.
Credit where credit is due. Dylan really saw the forest through the trees of there's an opportunity for our technology and we should be doing both. And what that was basically using our technology for a B2B audience, selling it directly to businesses rather than having a consumer presence. And we started doing both in tandem with the goal that we could do it all.
Yeah.
And because I was so personally connected to the product and the community and the impact and everything that we were doing. But having both in tandem is how we could see we have product market fit, business to business.
Right.
We have product market fit, direct to consumer. It's just a harder business to do.
Yeah.
So the pivot, I like to say, was by requirement, not necessarily design.
Yeah.
But I really think that's the responsibility of a business and a product. I remember at the time, emotionally, I was so torn up about it. But I was scrolling through LinkedIn and I saw a post and it said, if you're a mission-driven business and you're not profitable, your mission needs to be to get profitable. And from that point, you can really have a say in how you want to influence the world and how you want to impact it. And it was such a wake-up call of, we need to have a business that works.
Right.
Which was really the beginning motivation. I was in a social venture incubator. And the whole premise when I had the idea was, how do we use business to solve problems in a sustainable way?
Right. Right.
And that requires you being sustainable.
Yeah. That's such a good point. And I think that's something that more people and entrepreneurs need to hear, because it's like, we all want to use business. I mean, people that we surround ourselves with, we want to use business as a force for good. However, you need to be in business in order to use it as a force for good. So did that help you? Because I can imagine, though, like, you started this as that passion project, as that purpose-driven motivation to share this and build the community. That must have been challenging, and it takes a big ego check to be like, okay, now we're pivoting to B2B, and now I'm selling to businesses, and the whole community energy behind what I loved about this is now shifting and transforming. Like, that must have been quite a process. What was that like for you?
It was very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult because it was happening quickly, having to make these decisions and then having to action on them. So I remember in the span of a week, I had to make the decision, communicate it to our team, communicate it to the investors, communicate it to our partners, and communicate it to the public.
Dang.
So
that's a long week. You needed ice cream that week.
I needed to call you. And I remember writing out my communications for each audience the night before. So I didn't really even have time to process how that conversation went with each community, because I was on to the next one. And it was a very difficult season, but I remember really, really relying on my friends who showed up for me in ways that I hadn't allowed them to before. And it was such a growth point for me to realize, okay, I can feel like I'm falling apart.
Yeah.
And people will show up and will want to help me through that. And knowing that the destination we were driving to, I knew it was the right one, made it something I could navigate. I think if I was unsure if it was the right destination, it would have been probably insurmountable. But I had that confidence. So I was like, this is the right direction. Even if it's challenging to walk it, I can walk it.
That's huge. I want to click in on something you just said there, which I relate to as well. And I feel like a lot of leaders can relate to that. It is, as a leader, you're someone you're always holding it together, and usually you're holding space for other people. And I know from knowing you personally as well, it's like you're the one that helps friends that are falling apart. Like, you're not the one that falls apart. But like, what is that process? Because I had to go through something similar when Edge was falling apart, of like being okay not being okay, and like being able to create that space and let people in to be able to support me. So what was that like for you? Is that something that you've been good at in the past? Is that something that you were working on? Did this force you to? Like, tell me a little bit more about that process.
It was something I was not good at. It was something I wasn't working on. And this forced me to, I think, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time I really had engaged. My emotion around it was so high that I couldn't push it away or disassociate it from it in ways that I had in the past. And that was palpable to the people close to me.
Yeah.
Where I can think of specific conversations where I would get on the phone with someone and they were like, whoa, are you okay? And it would invite in a conversation that previously I probably would have been able to put on more of a front, that it never would have gotten surfaced. But because I couldn't, we now had to have the conversation. And it was really beautiful how some of those people showed up for me in that season.
Nice. What did you learn through that process?
I learned that people really do want to support you if you give them the opportunity to, and people will show up for you, and you feel so supported in that space. It's a really valuable place to land. So I had done so much work around trying not to be in that space, only to realize it was a great place to be once I got there.
Yeah.
So it helped me in a lot of ways lead differently and show up differently in my relationships and prioritize different things.
Very good. So good. And like you're saying, knowing the end destination, it's like, okay, this is in the right direction. This is going there, and I don't need to see the full picture yet, but like, this is important. And also because you've taken on fundraising before then, right? So you also have a fiduciary responsibility to your board and your investors to make every pivot, every opportunity to be able to get a return on investment for them and keep the business alive. And so I respect that, and I totally see that tension as well around making something that works for you and also living up to your responsibilities.
Absolutely. I always say, yes, we started this, but it's not us. We're operators of a business that has its own energy. And there are so many people that have believed in the vision, not just investors, but people on the team or partners we've worked with that have put their time and resources behind what we're doing. It would be irresponsible to make decisions from a place of my personal preference. It's looking at what serves this broader community, what is an end goal that supports everybody, and how do we action towards that versus maybe what I want.
Yeah, that's so good. That's really powerful. That's something I know I've heard Christina talk about as well, which is like your business has its own energy. When she's doing energy healing with founders specifically, it's like the relationship they have with their business is not a very good one, and energetically it needs support and help. And so I like that idea and that concept of like, it's a separate being, and we, although like you birthed it and you brought it into the world, like it's its own being that you're here to care for and to steward for, but it's not you in a way, especially when you have community involved, investors involved, other partners, team members. Like, it really does become its own organism in a way.
And I'm so glad you called out Christina, because that's her language.
Yeah.
Right. And she really helped me see that. And because when I started it, it was so interwoven. And I did feel that responsibility, and I knew I couldn't be making decisions for my personal preference. I knew that. But I think what she helped me see was truly why it was that way. And that there was a beauty to the separateness. Versus a responsibility to the separateness.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, there's almost a relief that comes with that too, in a way. Because, I mean, look, one of the biggest things that happens with founders in particular is it's so easy to get your identity wrapped up in what you're doing, which is a scary, vulnerable thing. I mean, I danced around that with Edge, the whole thing. It's like, it's a scary game to play, and that like, you put everything on. And if it's a reflection, if you believe, it's like, I had to do so much work on that of knowing that not taking things personally with the business itself, of not like getting too attached to the highs or the lows, but knowing that like this business is an expression of me, just one expression of me. That's why it was always important that I kept doing the podcast and I kept doing other things as well, doing retreats, so that I had different things always going on, to not get totally swept up into like, this is business is me, I am this business. Because, and I'm so glad that I did, because when everything came crashing down, like it would have added so much extra, tons and tons of extra weight and pressure, and like more of a wrestling with identity that I thankfully didn't need to do. So I think it's something that's not talked about enough, honestly, around, and again, you work with a lot of founders, you talk to a lot of founders in speeches or workshops and stuff like that. So like, is that something that you're sharing more on or talking about more?
I think it's a topic that's growing in importance. And I've told you this privately, but I had so much respect and admiration for how well you were doing that from the beginning, because it was always a priority of yours to have a separation and to hold them as separate but equal. That was really difficult for me in the earlier days with the company, because what you're talking about, if it's mission driven and it's community focused and it's your vision for impact. Yeah. These are such personal topics that you're really leading the charge on and casting a vision and inviting people into. And I think that invites a certain personal responsibility that you wouldn't see if it wasn't an impact driven business. Right. Good point. So many of our friends that are founders had impact at the core of what they were doing. Yes. And that ties you into it in a way that would be different if your goal was just to make money. Yeah, or you're drop shipping olive presses on Amazon. Exactly. Like, I think of Kaylee at Clearstem. They're on a mission, Kaylee and Danielle. And when you see them on their mission, it's so beautiful because they believe so wholeheartedly in what they're trying to do. Yep. They are very front and center to that community and that brand. And it would be difficult to unintertwine those things. So I think it's a constant challenge for entrepreneurs. Especially today, because one of the things we know is that like people want to buy from other people and people want to buy from founders that they know and they feel like they get to hang out with on social media. Like they want, like, especially Gen Z, it's like we need that personal connection. Like people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so the best brands and companies have that, that leader at the forefront that's embodying the brand, the values, and is leading the charge. And so especially with that, which I feel like it makes a lot of sense, and that's just the way things are going. And there's a level of authenticity there too, which is great. But especially with that, it feels like there's this nuance that's really difficult to hold, which is how do you show up with such a high intention and have a low attachment too, and have that separation, even though you may be the face of the brand and you need to be. How can you still have that separation and not have your identity wrapped up in that? Like, that's a difficult thing. Yes. Yeah. I think keeping your presence at the front of the brand, if that's something that calls to you, is totally fine. Yeah. Where it gets dangerous is if you're deriving your self-worth from the success of that joint venture versus you feel worthy inherently. And then as an extension of that, this is something you're choosing to do. That gets really, really blurred when your sense of self-worth is tied to the performance of the company. Messy. Can't be there. Yeah. Were you there at one point with Vizer? I was definitely there at one point. I started when I was 20. Yeah. Yeah. You were a baby. You were a kid. And it was so intertwined with how much of my time was going towards it, how much of my personal community was tied up in it, how much of my sense of identity. And it was really hard to context shift out of that. Who am I in this role when my friends and my family work at the company, for example? Right. And who am I when I'm not in the role, when I'm with the same people? Yeah. Or when the office is your living room. Precisely. Yeah. That's how. What advice do you have to someone that is, or what advice would you go back and give your 20-year-old self right now, knowing what you know now? I've been on a real journey of authenticity in the last few years, picking up in the last year or so, I would say. And what I would tell an earlier version of myself is that you never have to trade on your authenticity to do what is right for your business or for your community, those aren't not the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there were so many instances where I would think I should show up in a certain way. I should say or do something, and I would act that way, and I would trade on my authenticity to do so. And that's where you started to have a performative role.
Yeah.
And by not doing that, maybe your actions are unpopular. Maybe it doesn't work out exactly as you would hope. Maybe it's uncomfortable. But you're in integrity with what's true and right and authentic to you.
Yeah.
And if you live in that space, I don't think you'll get into these friction points of being performant or being out of integrity with yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. Very well said. Because, I mean, I found the same thing as I would know when I was like putting a mask on, or I was like doing the thing I should be doing, or this is the way I should be showing up at this. And it just felt hyped. Like I feel it in my body now. It's like, it feels yucky. It doesn't feel good. It feels like something's, and that's received on the other end too. That's the thing, is like, why even bullshit yourself or try to bullshit someone else? Like, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. We're all bullshitters at the end of the day. Like we have that sixth sense. And what I found is, in every instance where I went against the thing that I quote unquote should do and stuck with, like, led with honesty and integrity of, like, even if it's calling out, like, this conversation really sucks. This is uncomfortable for me to have. And like, I wish I could tell you this thing, but here's the reality. And every time I led with that, it was always so well received, because there's no hiding. And I think at the end of the day, people, especially when you're showing up in those situations that are I should be showing up this way. Usually it's like, those are uncomfortable situations, and the person on the other side of those situations or the other parties involved in that will appreciate your authenticity and lead from that.
Because often I have found, and I wonder if you agree with this, the rubric of should tends to be flawed. So who we think we should show up as in that experience, according to who?
Right.
What parameters are we using to come up with the should? We're trying to show up as something that we think is right, but it can't be right if it's inauthentic.
Yeah.
So anytime you're trying to show up as something, you've already lost the plot.
So good. Yeah, the only should be showing up authentically and honoring your integrity and your inner integrity.
And sometimes pushback I get on that is, well, what if that's unkind, or what if that is confrontational, or what if, and I always say, if you're a kind person, you won't be in that position.
Right.
So if you're acting in integrity with your authenticity, you shouldn't find yourself in situations where you're doing things that you wouldn't be proud of.
Right.
If your integrity is something that you're proud of.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting conundrum.
Yeah. Stop shooting all over yourself.
Yes.
We got a lot of shooters over here. A lot of people shooting left and right. One of the things that that this conversation reminds me of is it's just how important, especially for founders, like how important the personal development and the self-exploration work is. How have you, I mean, so you've had a decade now of this work of business and personal development. I know really recently you've really leveled up and stepped into this next version of what that looks like for you from a more personal development, spiritual development standpoint. But what has that role played for you? The inner work, the personal development, the spiritual work, what role has that played in you as a person and on your business?
It's been everything. I truly believe it's the only reason the company is doing anything in the world, and that I still feel like an integrated whole person.
Yeah.
Because there are so many conflict points you come up against where you have an option. Are you going to grow through it, or are you going to let it break you? And for me, personal development work and spiritual work and interpersonal work has helped at each of those inflection points where we could have broken and instead we grew. So it has been huge. I think you and I were talking about this, but I feel as if entrepreneurship, and then I imagine parenting, I'm not a parent, but I imagine parenting, are these professional sports, these things where your goal is so crystal clear. Parenting, you want to raise good humans, right? The business, you want the business to grow and do well. Sports, you want to win the game. where you will consistently meet yourself and go through that hard challenge because you want to get past it to get where you're going. Where if you don't have this driving factor that's pulling you towards a vision, I think there are a lot of situations where I would have said, you know what, I can wait. That feels uncomfortable. I'll do that later.
Yeah.
But it was so clear it was the obstacle in the way. I had no choice but to confront the limiting belief or the discomfort that was blocking us from where we would otherwise be.
Yeah. I love that. It's a game. It's a certain type of game that you're playing, and you become a newer person, a better person through playing that game and through having that objective that's going to pull you through and drag you through. That's really good. I like that.
It's been transformative also I'm working on this, so I can't say it's done, but I'm trying to integrate that all parts of me were always on the same plateau. So I'm growing and expanding, and I'm taking on new experiences, and I'm learning different things, but not viewing it as a ladder I'm climbing of this was a previous version of me and this is a better version, this is a better version. It's all great. It's all 100%. It's just expanding in what it can hold.
Tell me more about that. So you're saying the way that you view it is all these different qualities and parts of you are 100%, and it's just you're just expanding your capacity for more within that, or how are you?
Yeah, so it's as if every version of you is always 100% worthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's good.
It's 100%. And I think in the pursuit of growth and the pursuit of evolution, it could be really easy to feel as if one version is less than, and we're reaching for that next version that's better.
Right.
And I've been trying to just flatten all that, where all versions are good.
Yeah.
There are things to add in and complement, but it's not going to move me up a ladder.
Yeah, and it's not like where you are now is unworthy or undeserving. There's an analogy that my mentor and coach I've worked with for 7-8 years now, Giorgio, shared with me years ago. So this may be an adapted version of it, but basically his whole concept on personal growth is, he refers to as self-expansion. It's like we're expanding ourself, and the vision is, imagine you've got like a farm basically, and you've got the fence that's around your farm. You've got your farmland, you've got your house, you've got your livestock, you've got you've got your flowers, and you've got your food, your agriculture, and so you've got this fence around, and like that's yourself. And self-exploration is moving the fence more and more and more, and every time you move it, you discover, whoa, I didn't realize there were trees that were a part of my property. Cool. Amazing. And then more and more. Oh, there's like a river over here now. Cool. This is all part of me. So it's just exploring these deeper parts of yourself. But at every stage and every point, like it's whole. It's whole as who you are. You're just expanding more.
That's exactly it.
That's it.
Yes.
Cool. I like that.
There's no such thing as an original idea, I'm convinced.
Yeah.
They just recycle over time.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what our friend Christina would have to say about that, because I think she said something very similarly. Like it's all like there's a stream of ideas and information, and it's just all different signatures of that same energetic frequency. So it makes sense.
Oh yeah, there's a Prince Michael Jackson thing where I think it was Michael Jackson would wake up in the middle of the night if he heard a song and record it, because he was convinced if he didn't, it was going to go to Prince.
Wow. Well, that makes a lot of sense. You read Big Magic by Liz Gilbert, or no? Yes, where she talks about, highly recommend for anybody who has not read this. Liz Gilbert, she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Fantastic. One of my favorite authors. And Big Magic is her story and her take on creativity. And she talks about the genius and the idea of a genius and where that word comes from. And it comes from this old concept that like you had a genius. A genius was like something that came to you, like a being that came to you that gave you ideas and things like that. So it wasn't like, oh, you're a genius. It was like, oh, you have a genius, and the genius like inspired you with ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. And she talks about in her book that this concept and idea that like when an idea comes to you, ideas will go to the person that is ready to act on them. And if it comes to you don't do anything with it, it'll go to someone else. And I think so many of us have that experience where we're like, oh, no way. Like I was thinking that exact same thing, or I thought the exact same idea came to me. She even writes in her book where she had this book idea came to her, and she put off on writing it, like down to the specifics. Like the outline was specific on the time period where it was set, and the main plot line of like the divorcee husband going overseas to this specific country during this time period. And then one of her friends published a book with the exact same thing. And they traced back the timeline that was like exactly after she first got the idea and didn't do anything about it. Then the other woman got the idea. So it's like, it's mind blowing. I really believe that.
You know how deeply I believe that stuff.
Yeah, right?
It's just floating around in the ether.
Yeah.
And it's looking for a place to come through. And are you willing to be a vessel through which ideas come through? Yeah.
And I think it's okay also to be like, okay, it's a good idea. Like I've had some of those recently where it's like, oh, I could do that. I could see that. I have the idea. And also like, that's a no for now. I'm going to say no to that so I can say yes to these other things that feel more alive to me too.
Totally. I think it has to be both, right?
Yeah.
The idea comes, you're the vessel for it. And then does it light you up?
Right.
And if it does.
Right. There's your full body yes.
You run with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something I think, this is a fun thing I'm going to start doing too when those ideas come. Just like, okay, you can go to someone else. Like I give you permission to go to someone else because you need to be and you need to be released and created. It's like you can go to someone else, or if you want to hang out, wait for me. I'll get to you in a bit. Give me a couple of years, and I'll get to you.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's like it would be dope if you could hang around until Q4. If not, if you got to go onwards, I get it. I respect it. Go ahead. Just please go to someone who will take care of you.
That's such a respectful boundary relationship with the idea.
Yes, I love it. This is good. We're improving relationships with ideas.
There we go.
So good. One of the things that I really love about the way that you lead and the way that you lead your life is I've had the privilege of being able to see your home, which is the most amazing space ever. Can you tell us about your home space that you've created?
It's evolved. As you mentioned, It used to be our corporate office. So I lived there with Dylan, my cousin and co-founder, and then I had a friend that would always be rotating. So 3 people would be there. At one point, our corporate office was there, but slowly I've gotten all those things out. So we now have an office elsewhere. Dylan got married. Mm-hmm. They bought a house together, and then my roommates have since left. But I'm still in this 3-bedroom house. And I thought, why not convert these extra rooms into fun places to hang out? So there's no guest room, much to my parents' chagrin. But one of the rooms I turned into a music studio.
So good. Because
I got into music in the last few years. And then one room I turned into a yoga meditation lounge. And I'm very particular. So my house is perfectly organized, but everything has a form and a function. And I absolutely love it.
So good.
It's like a playground.
Yeah. Well, you also have it, maybe it's in the music studio, you have like an art corner too for like painting, right?
It's literally like a playroom. So
yeah, you got a playroom.
One corner is my art setup, one corner is my music setup, and then I have a writing studio desk with my typewriter.
So good. I love this because you're always expressing something new, learning something new, whether it's writing poetry or if it's learning to play the piano and to sing. I think I love that, and I appreciate that because it's so easy, especially as a founder, to get so wrapped up in what you're doing. It's like, I don't have time for any of that. I don't have time for that. But you seem to make time for that.
That was a thing, again, that was by requirement, not design. So there were so many years where I didn't do that, and I did burn myself out, and I pushed way too hard. And COVID was definitely a wake-up call in that sense, where when you couldn't leave, it was so easy to just work around the clock.
Yep.
And I definitely burned out, realized it wasn't sustainable, decided I needed to start finding hobbies. And then that opened up this love I didn't even know I had for so many things that, looking back, I did when I was a kid and had completely lost. And so much joy has been brought to my life by writing poems and making music. For example, one of my first purchases when I was little was an electric guitar.
Really?
I saved up money with my little neighborhood businesses, and I went in all cash, bought this hot pink electric guitar, never learned how to play it. Flash forward, I was maybe 25, 26, and you know this, but I lucid dream a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a dream in my childhood. So I actually had a studio playroom thing when I was in high school. So I was in that room and I was playing the electric guitar and I sounded like a rock star.
Of course you did.
Prince at the Super Bowl halftime show with this guitar, and I could feel it with my hand.
Whoa.
And I remember waking up with this knowing I have to learn how to play guitar.
Whoa. So when was this?
So this is when I was 25.
Wow.
I think 26 around there. And I remember writing in my journal that I had a dream. I was playing guitar and singing songs that I wrote Taylor Swift style.
Whoa.
About the journey from 25 to 28.
Ooh.
I just wrote that down. And then I started learning when I was 28.
Incredible.
And I forgot about that until I had found the paper later on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And aren't you going to be doing a performance soon?
I am.
Right? Would you like to publicly announce this? Social accountability?
I can. So I've made it so public that everybody knows, but I'm turning 30 in November. And I started writing poems in COVID, teaching myself guitar when I had the dream, teaching myself piano. And I thought, how fun would it be if I could sing these songs or turn them into songs and then sing them? Mm-hmm. The only problem is that I don't know how to sing. But that's solvable.
Solvable,
right?
Yeah.
So signed up for singing lessons.
According to Sam, it's solvable. Duh.
Signed up for singing lessons. And will I be a Grammy-winning recording artist? Unlikely. But can I be decent enough to sing the songs that I wrote? I think so.
I also like that you don't rule out being a Grammy recording artist.
I certainly don't think it's off the table.
Yeah, that's what I like. You didn't say, most people would say, well, I'll be a Grammy-winning artist. No, but you said unlikely. It's a nice little shift.
There's a portion of me that
great.
Absolutely thinks it's possible.
I'm open to that possibility, that miracle.
Maybe not yet, but I wanted a bit of social accountability. So I started telling all of my friends and family that I would perform my first song live at my birthday party.
Amazing.
And it's happening. I booked the venue.
Oh, you got the venue booked.
I booked the venue.
Heck yeah.
I'll send you the save the date.
Great.
And we'll see how it goes.
Love it. So good. That's such an important element to bring in, as well, rounding yourself and not getting too sucked up into anything and bringing that playfulness and creativity. And have you seen, since you've been focused on that, whether it's drawing or painting or poetry or singing or guitar or piano, have you seen that been a positive ROI for you in terms of the other areas of your life?
Absolutely. I would be curious. You've known me throughout that chapter, so I'm sure you could see a difference. Yeah,
for sure.
From before to after?
Yeah, I would say the difference that I've seen is you definitely feel much more embodied in your feminine energy, which is big. And there's more of a playful demeanor that you have about yourself, and like a less of like before it was like, Sam is serious business. She means business in like all good ways, of course, but it was like... Right? And
it was true.
Yeah.
I was very serious and very driven.
Yeah.
And only expressing those aspects of myself because I thought I had to. It was those shoulds. And then realizing, no, I don't have to do that. And there was a whole aspect of my personality that was much more playful and creative and dreamy that just, there was no space for it. And once I brought that back in, all of a sudden... our business started doing better. All of a sudden, there were no issues with our team. All of a sudden, my personal life looked quite different.
Yeah.
So it was such a expansion point. And for me, I'm a manifesting generator.
Shout out to us Manny Gens. Let's go.
You know, and I'm very loosely, I have strong convictions, but they're loosely held. That's a phrase I always come back to. Meaning right now, I'm so energized by the music thing. I'm loving it. And I've told everybody this is the path that I want to go down as my hobby right now. But I could absolutely wake up tomorrow and be completely over it and completely walk away. And I would have no issue with that because I would be walking towards something that was energizing me. I don't feel like I have to commit per se to a path that I've started down. And because of that, it is so playful and so free.
I like that. I wonder how could we apply that mentality towards business even?
I absolutely think you can. So strong convictions, loosely held is a big philosophy of our business. It helped when we went to the pivot.
Yeah.
And it's helped with every decision we've made before and after, where I believe you have to have a direction because otherwise you're just not making decisions. Analysis paralysis, you're running all the numbers, but you're not actually making forward momentum. But once you have received information that your destination should shift, if your discernment is telling you that's correct, you have to make that move. You can't sit and wait 6 months. So same, if I've set something as a destination and we were actively moving towards that, but I have better information that we need to move to a different destination, no part of me is committed to the previous destination because there was a sunk cost to it. None. I almost view every day that we delay in making a move that I know to be the right move is the opportunity cost. So having that, but the discernment piece is huge. You can't just jump to everything. Yeah. Every opportunity that arises, especially if it's from scarcity. You have to know with conviction, this is the new path, and then very shamelessly and unabashedly get onto that track.
And working with a co-founder definitely brings a lot of that up to the surface, huh?
In the best ways.
Yeah.
Dylan and I are so complementary, and then we also view things very differently in some instances. And that's been really supportive for us because we can look at the same problem and have very different perspectives on it, but our communication is usually, there's always bumps. We're family, but is usually rock solid by the time we're done. Yeah. Like if we're going to have a conversation, we'll end up in the same place.
That's good.
But we were comfortable in the discomfort of pushing back on each other and challenging things, and there's no group think to it.
Yeah.
We're both going to express what we think.
Yep.
But then we will find some place of cohesion by the end.
Right. That's really good. That happened with Rob and I a lot too. And we talked a lot about this because we both had cousin co-founders, which is a rare thing. It's a unique dynamic. Sometimes you see, husband, wife founders, maybe brother, sister, but the cousin is a unique dynamic with because your family, right? Your family.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always said is that Rob and I were co-founders first and we happened to be cousins second. And that was such a beautiful thing because we knew that we had each other's back and we had each other's highest interest, and we had a foundation of a relationship of trust already established. But that is not reason enough to go into business with someone. And I think that's where a lot of people get into trouble when they get into business with families, because that's what's convenient and that's what's there. It was that we had a complementary skill set that allowed us to be really good co-founders first and align on the same vision first, and that we just happened to be cousins. So what's I'm curious because we had our own dynamic of differing perspectives, and we always had a different perspective, which was sometimes exhausting but always very helpful because we usually get to a really amazing place. But what's the dynamic like in terms of in terms of you and Dylan as co-founders?
It's interesting because we're not just family, we're also friends.
Right.
We spend a ton of time together. I'm over at his place all the time. So we're family, we're friends, we vacation together, we do holidays together, and we work together. It's a ton of factors all at once. One thing from the beginning that we lived together for a period, so there's that too. From the beginning that we knew we had to invest in was our communication. Because if we couldn't work through things between the two of us, the whole thing was going to fall apart. And not only that, but it was going to impact all of these other circles that are concentric. And at times that did become challenging because we would hit those growth edges in our relationship of, okay, we're hitting a conflict point, but we have agreed that we have to resolve this. So what are we going to do about that? And one thing that's been really supportive for us, we started doing these, I call them therapy breakfasts. Yeah. But once a month, we'll get together for breakfast and we talk every day. But this is a container that's specifically dedicated to working on our partnership.
Great.
And I'll surface, these are the things that you're doing that's driving me crazy. And he'll surface, these are the things that you're doing that's driving me crazy. And we can't have an ego about it. We have to be very receptive to the feedback from the other person. And then we have to decide how we're going to resolve that before our next meeting. Because what's not going to happen is it just is an issue that persists for 30 days. And we have successfully not had any issues persist from month to month because we're both so committed to what we're trying to do.
Right.
And again, it comes back to what I was saying, where if your vision's pulling you, you will hit those growth edges and you'll figure it out. So we're both so committed to having good communication, resolving the issue. We've been able to do it, even when it was difficult.
Fantastic. Such good advice. Love that idea. Therapy breakfast. That's good.
And go somewhere fun.
Yeah.
We'll get good lattes.
That's good.
There's a place I'm blanking on the name, Sugar and Scribe.
Oh,
in La Jolla.
Oh, cool.
We sit outside. It's a good vibe.
Great. It's a good vibe for therapy breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good practice. I like that. I like that a lot.
We didn't implement that until over 5 years in.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish we had done it in the beginning, but we were kids. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
We didn't know we were doing.
Is one of you more risk averse, risk tolerant, marketing, admin, finance? Like, what's the makeup of you guys as founders?
Between Dylan and I'm certainly more risk averse, and he's a Gemini.
Okay.
So figure it out as you go.
Yep.
When it comes to our skill sets, though, we're quite similar. Dylan has a brilliant marketing brain. He does our partnerships and sales, and then I'm in marketing and very public facing in that way.
True.
And then also sales. I do investors, things like that. So we're very complementary there. Nick, my childhood best friend and our COO, was the perfect first hire because he came and complemented all the areas that we were weak.
Great.
Operations, and Dylan has a finance background, but Nick has my risk aversion plus all the skill sets that I hate. To be completely candid.
Right.
So he's the perfect complement to me, and then the two of us complement Dylan well.
Fantastic. Yeah. And he's still with you guys from your first hire.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Our retention is very high.
Yeah.
I think it's a great culture. The people that work at Vizer truly, truly enjoy one another. And I think that's one of the best retention tools you have. If you like the people you work with and you're doing interesting work, it's usually a fun place to be.
Yeah, you're going to stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of your other thoughts or ideas on how you've been able to build that type of culture?
I'm very personally interested in personal development. And that has created a culture of professional development in Vizer, where a lot of our people have come right out of school. I've hired several people that were interns that are now managers and running departments. And then that's not everyone. We have experienced people as well. So you have a different blend of what people are looking for. But what I've found is regardless of how experienced somebody is in their career, everybody, at least the people that have been attracted to work with us, appreciates and values the opportunity for professional development. So I will host mindset workshops or public speaking seminars or anything that's focused on how do I help you reach the next destination that you're trying to go to.
Great.
Because yes, we've all come together to work on this company and we all are sharing in a vision and a mission right now. But you have a plan and a blueprint for your life, and this is a chapter of that.
Right.
So where are you trying to go? And how, the same way that you're pouring into this vision, how can I pour into your vision?
That's so good.
And trying to have really clear communication from the outset around what the goals are, personally, professionally, that people on our team hold. And if there are areas where the energy of the company can be supportive to that, I absolutely want to seize those opportunities.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I wish more people took that approach. Like, think about, I'm sure people listening to this are like, oh my God, if my boss did that to me, I would be amazing. And it's so simple to do. I don't know, where did you learn that from? Do you know? It just like...
Honestly, it's hard to say that it should be ubiquitous. I believe it would be lovely if it was ubiquitous, but it's so intrinsically motivated because I love personal development.
Yeah.
So I find joy in learning things and sharing things and getting to work with people and collaborate towards it. It's almost a coaching energy that is so fun for me. It's selfish, really.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I think it would be really difficult for somebody that didn't enjoy personal development to pour a lot of their time and resources into professional development when it's not directly related to their role and responsibilities. Versus for me, I think as a CEO, pouring into the team, in addition to casting the vision and trying to communicate those things, is the most beneficial thing I can do, because here's the vision, but then dozens of people are taking actions every day to drive us towards that. So how can I pour into those resources and help them be at their best self? It completely makes sense to me, but that's because I love it.
Yeah.
I imagine it would be difficult for somebody that didn't love it.
I took that same approach, and I think it was me putting myself in the shoes of what would I have if I'm sitting in this person's shoes across from the table. Like, how can I get into their mindset a little bit? Like, what would I want to hear? How would I want to be treated if I was them right there? And just even that awareness of like, yeah, this is just a chapter for you in your career. Like, this is a big chapter for me in my life right now, and this is my life. And hopefully it's a beautiful and a long chapter, and that growth can evolve into new positions or new departments, or you can achieve, like, I always want anybody on my team to achieve whatever their career goals are. Like, for the really good talents, like, how can we make that happen within this? Like, how can we make that happen as a part of this and be win-win? And if not, what are the things that I can help you do now to develop yourself so that you can be better prepared to take that next step, and knowing that it's a chapter. And there's something I feel like is really disarming about that too, of just like let's make this valuable for both of us. And it's so appreciated. So would you say that's been a big piece of helping build that culture that you guys have? Because you guys definitely have a strong culture and a team energy. You can get that sense.
I would absolutely say so. I've had conversations with most everybody on our team. We just had some new hires, so I have to sit down and have those conversations, but around that topic. And the same way you were talking about transparency earlier, I always try to pull the curtain back of, this is where we are today, and this is the trajectory that we're on now. I want to hear from you. What's your dream role? What are the things that you would want to be doing? And then being really candid, is that path available for you in this organization? Most often it is, to your point. Well, these are the things that would have to be true for that role to exist and for you to occupy it. Here's what the growth of the company would have to look like XYZ. We would have to have these opportunities for that role to exist. So what would have to happen for that role to exist, for example? And then what would you have to do to sit in that seat? So if your goal is that you want to be a people manager, but you've never managed people, what experience would you have to have, and what traits would we want to work on and cultivate in you to be a people manager? And really working with people to understand, is that what they want?
Right.
Does the idea of it sound good? But when you explain what that role would actually require, it's interesting to see how somebody typically thinks they want to end up in one place. But when you dig into it with them and talk about what a day in the life for that person looks like, they may realize, oh, I actually want to be in more of an independent contributor role because I love doing this work and I don't know that I would love managing it.
Right.
So having those conversations with people, if you can get alignment on that, the 2 to 3 years that follow are beautiful because they can understand how every action they're taking is compounding towards the goal they're trying to reach, versus, oh, I'm doing this thing, it's a little off my path, and I'm trying to get to this place. It's all one line.
Yeah.
If we're architecting it right from the outset.
Right.
But that conversation isn't always had from leadership to the team.
It's great.
And that creates a huge gap when people don't understand how their work is compounding to create value for them and the organization over time.
Makes total sense. And having that conversation up front of, how can this be on the way for you? And that's just a beautiful piece of alignment to have.
I think of one guy on my team. He's incredible. And he, for 6 months, was doing pretty challenging manual work. It took a lot of time and energy, and it wasn't fun. And I understood that. And him and I went to breakfast, and I said, I understand what you're doing is painful. And I so appreciate that you're willing to do it. But I want to communicate why what you're doing is so valuable. Because when this becomes the way tech works, is you do things manually and then you build them into the product.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when this is a part of our product and all the things that you're doing manually are happening programmatically, you will be an expert into why all of those things work how they do. You'll have identified all the trends, and your ability to speak to that and consult to our clients, you'll be an expert. And he had recently graduated college, and he shared he was so grateful that I had explained it that way.
Yeah, that's great.
Because he had another 3 months of manual
yeah.
ahead of him. And now it's so true. He is the go-to person on
Wow.
the team. He's stepped into leadership roles with certain aspects of the product
Cool.
that he never would have been able to do
Oh, that's so good.
if he didn't have that context.
Oh, I love that. And also for you as a leader to help facilitate that and to point that out, because that's the truth. And if you can show it how this is an important part of building the skill set that you need to be the expert to help you achieve your goals. It provides like a reason for the suffering in a way, and makes it a lot more palatable and a lot more manageable. But you're right. If he's just, if he doesn't have you to pull him back for that bigger perspective and that bigger vision, then he's just in the manual job itself and like getting burnt down. But as soon as that bigger vision or picture or that realignment's like, oh yeah, this is for something. Nothing's for naught. And now I know what this is for, so I can really show up and lead. And that's credit where credit's due. Like that's an amazing, I feel like, act of leadership to be able to do that.
Because the context, thank you, the context changes how you show up. So if he doesn't have the context, for example, that a benefit of what you're doing right now is you can be identifying trends and learning patterns that are going to serve you in consulting, he may be a bit more, not mindless, but repetitive. And as he's going through it. But if he knows an intention of this work is to be identifying trends so he can then consult clients on what he's realizing, his focus and his attention to detail and the things he's going to pull out of that experience are totally different. So I always advise, whether you're a founder or somebody on the team, being really clear about the intention behind everything that you're doing will change the outcomes that you get from it.
Yeah.
Compared to, well, I just have to do this thing, so I'm doing it.
Yeah, it changes the role entirely. Like he could go home and then the next day be like, this is a whole new job. I'm seeing this entirely different, although you're actually doing the same things. It's the power of intention.
Totally.
Yeah. So good. Wow. Well, an hour zipped by pretty quickly, huh?
It always does.
Always does. Let's see if I have any more questions for you while I still got you here in the hot seat. What's next for you?
Honestly, I don't know. And it's a really great place to be, because I think my 20s were so directional. I knew where I wanted to go and I was driving towards that, and it was very future oriented. And I've slowed down in a lot of ways and tried to become much more present, which I think is happening a bit more successfully. So I'm trying to show up every day, be in my best energy, put my best foot forward, be what the moment demands, and let that direct my path rather than wake up with a preconceived notion of how the day should go.
Yeah. I like that. And what role, we've had conversations about this as well, but what role has balancing some of your masculine, feminine energies, go get it, versus being present, receiving, what role has that played for you in this recent chapter?
It's been a big part of it. And I think that really underpins my response to you right then, where initiative and structure and drive are so helpful if you are ambitious and you're trying to make something in the world.
Necessary.
There's no way we could have done what we did if that wasn't the driving force. But it's a different energy source. I don't even know how to articulate it in a way that would be coherent, but it's a different way that energy is running through your body that feels very transactional to me. Probably not to you, because it's masculine energy. And it almost felt like it was an engine in the car that was like it could drive, but it wasn't the right one. Or maybe it was the wrong gas for the engine.
Yep.
And now that I've started to like swap the fuel out, I'm like, wow, the engine's running so much better.
Ooh.
And only through doing it have I been able to feel how inadequate my previous fuel source was. And looking back, I actually think it was a misconception that I needed that fuel only with what I know now. So I may have had to go through the whole cycle to get it, but this new fuel source is quite potent and powerful if you allow it to be. It just may manifest differently than the linear path I thought was the path I had to walk leaving college.
Well, that was very coherent and pretty damn gold, if you ask me. So
I'm glad.
Well done. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners as we wrap up here?
No, I think I'm really excited for you in this new chapter that you're embarking on with the podcast. I think everything that you do is great. And thanks for having me on.
Of course. Until next time.
Till next time. With ice cream.
With ice cream. Let's go.